Okay, right on schedule. We are ready for our next presenter. Frank Turley has spent many years training project managers, creating materials, and sharing the knowledge, which is his great passion of building competence for other project managers. Has trained hundreds of project managers around the world. Has also contributed greatly to the Prince2 and Prince2 Agile, both as a presenter and trainer and creating training materials. And yeah, he is here today to share some of that wisdom with us as well. So yeah, we're happy to have you with us, Frank, and yeah, please feel free.
Great, thank you very much, Dragan. Okay, let me share my screen. I think I have to share my screen, don't I? That's how this thing works.
Well, we can have a conversation anytime. But,
Great. Okay, you see my presentation on your screen? Do you? Yeah, great, ready to go.
I see it, yeah.
Okay, so good morning, everybody, or good afternoon to some people as well. So my talk today is going to be about the many advantages of peer reviews, and I take you through quite a number of different paths to get there, okay? So let me almost begin. First of all, thanks to HTC for organizing this great conference, and also to PMI Serbia. So it's great to be here. I'm dialing in from Belgium today, where it's quite cool. But let's continue. First of all, I want to tell you a little story and start with a little story. So our story, I'm going to talk a little bit about, or a lot, and a little bit about P3.express today, but mostly about the peer reviews. But I have to touch on P3.express because that's where we got the idea from, and that's where we're using the idea today. So when we initially launched P3.express version 1, we had the idea of audits. And we were very proud of this. You know, it was our baby, but it was an ugly baby. And the feedback on our baby was not very nice, you know. Nobody insults a baby, but they weren't really happy with this one. But we wanted to have the idea of an audit where the project manager could get feedback on what they were doing actually was a good idea, or whether or not making mistakes, or to get feedback before they even made mistakes. So in version 2, because of the community we have, we got some very good ideas input into them. And one of them was the idea of using peer reviews. So instead of like an auditor or project assurance person walking around with a big badge going, I'm project assurance, I'm your auditor, we said, okay, let's invite other project managers to give actually their feedback to your project. And there's a lot of advantages to this. And that's the whole scope, or the whole idea of this presentation here. So I'll bring you through to this. So that's where the idea came from. And so let me begin, or let me start then. So first of all, some definitions of what actually a peer review is. And I wanted to give like a general overview on what a peer review was, rather than just a project management one. So the best way to do that would be to go to something like Wikipedia. And that's what I've done. So Wikipedia says that a peer review is the evaluation of work by somebody with similar competences. Okay, that's easy to understand. So from a project level, we will hire, or we will ask some people who are project managers to give us feedback on our project, usually within our organization. Okay, that's good. Next one, what function does it serve? So what function does the idea of peer review serve? And this is from Wikipedia as well. It's not linked to project management. They say it's a form of self-regulation by qualified members of a profession. Okay, that will make more sense in a moment, but it's nice in general to deal with now. Then why do we do this? Why is the idea of a peer review? Again, this is from Wikipedia. It's used to maintain quality standards, improve performance, and provide credibility. And that's exactly what we wanted to do with the idea of the audits, but now we're doing it in a much better way. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind, and I will discuss this, how that's done, or how we achieve that within our way of working. Okay, the last then, the purpose of a peer review. So what's the purpose from, this is from our point of view, let's say from a project management point of view. At times, project managers can get lost in their project data. There's an expression in English that you cannot see the trees for the forest, the forest for the trees. So everything becomes like a maze, and you cannot work it out because you're stuck inside it. But if another project manager comes in, they can see things that you cannot see. So it allows you to pause and check, or get someone else to check to see, are what you're doing, is it okay? And are you okay to proceed in your projects? Okay, or are you missing something? And there's another huge benefit. It provides an opportunity for both peers to learn. So the peer that's given the feedback to you, and for you to learn from them as well. Okay, so they learn both ways. Just one thing to remember as well. We note that peer reviews work both ways. So you'll be asked to do a peer review of other projects as well, and they will be asked to do it from other projects as well, and one of them can be your project. So it's not just one person all of the time. So it's everybody does it. Okay, so what are other professions that actually do this? Well, in actually healthcare, the first mention of a peer review is in some text that was written about in 900 AD, and it was based on some Greek text around the practice of healthcare or physicians. And there was an update made in the Middle East where they said that the idea of using a peer review for certain kinds of diseases where a second doctor would come in and give their opinion, or they would be involved in the process. So that's the first time it's being written down or being recorded that we know about. Also in accounting, in law, in engineering, in software, in aviation, even in writing, it comes back. And maybe even in comedy, it comes back as well. Okay, so if this joke has bombed for you, you can see that I should have used a peer review. And if it didn't, then maybe I didn't need a peer review for adding in this line. But it gives an idea. It's not just on project management, it's in other areas. And that's what we should be always looking out for. We should say, well, what other practices or techniques that are used in other areas that we can bring into project management and we can use as well. Okay, good. So now I want to give you some examples where things might go wrong, or things have gone wrong, or where it's lacking and we need this kind of input. The first one will be one that you will all go, oh God, yeah, that happened to me. Well, 99% of you, okay? So have you ever been in a situation where you have checked something and checked it and checked it and checked it again, and everything is wonderful, everything is 100%, and you go to your boss and go, here, this is the work that I've done. And within like 5 to 10 seconds, they point at something and they say, you've missed that. That's a lacking. That's happened to us all, okay? Even me. So what's missing there was, wouldn't it have been great if we had a peer review from somebody else before we went to our boss and then said, hey, they find this. And then when we show it, it's one less problem for our boss to find, then we look better. So that's a nice example. Next example is a weird one as well, but it's a very popular one, is writers. So writers spend their whole desk or day, some of them behind a typewriter. They know more about writing. They've done their 10,000 hours. So there's no way these guys can make a mistake. Absolutely none. But yet, each writer uses a copy editor before they go to publish, okay? For maybe two main reasons. One is that they've made mistakes in their writing. So in their language, let's say it's English, or they make English mistakes. And other times, maybe they're using different words to explain different things, or they're not consistent in their approach to writing because it's a different day for them, so they're thinking a little bit differently. So the copy editors provide this consistency in their writing and give some feedback, and maybe even say, well, you should use a different phrase for that because it doesn't mix with other language you've used as well. So even professional copywriters would use this. I like this one as well. I got good feedback. So most of you will know this person, or at least let's say 50% of you. He's a current trainer of the English football team. Hasn't got a very good record for the moment. Because I'm Irish, that's okay. I don't really mind, if English football is not doing so good. But he has been a trainer for a couple of years, and one of his first companies my God, Frank. One of his first football teams to take over was Aston Villa, I think. So he had prepared the team sheet in the morning, and he said to his wife, honey, look at, I've prepared my team for the day. This is my team for the day. And she looked at the example and she goes to them and go, Gareth, you forgot the goalie. So that's a very simple example, but it's just nice to know that we can get feedback or peer reviews from everywhere. Okay, you're not going to forget that now, are you? I don't think so. Good. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to do a poll and I'm going to try to get your feedback on this. It's not a feedback on my presentation. It's just a feedback on what you think of the idea of this and whether you think it's suitable for your company. Okay, so just keep that in mind and I will do that at the very end. All right, now I'm going to take you through some general topics around peer reviews. First one is, where do we do peer reviews? So this is P3.express here. It's quite easy to understand it. Like we have initiation here. We divide the project up into monthly cycles, then there's weekly cycles and so on. We'll continue this until the project is almost done or done, and then we go into closure. So the first time we do a peer review, or we think we should do a peer review, hopefully we're doing it in the right place, is at the project initiation or towards the end of project initiation. I will come back and give more details on this in a moment to show you what activities are before and after, so it'll make more sense why we do it there. Then we think the next best place, or we believe the next best place, is almost at the start of monthly initiation. Okay, again, I will come back and explain that. So that will happen for every cycle we do. If you use the word phases or stages, that's fine. But we will do it on a, let's say, a stage basis or a monthly basis. And then we do one last one at the end of the project. We call this a project closure peer review. So those are the 3 times, but the monthly one is done lots of times within a project, depending on on how long your project is. Okay, I think I have you with me so far. So now, where do the results go? So we gather this information of our peer reviews, and I give you an example of the questions in a moment as well. So where do our results go? Well, we use the idea of a health register, and that's used actually for 2 main reasons. And it's the health register. It is used by the project manager to gauge, it's their gauge on how healthy the project is. Because one of the most important things for a project manager is to be able to have a finger on the pulse of the project, and if something is going wrong, to detect it as quickly as possible. Okay, so therefore they can take action. The worst thing that can happen is that they find out of a problem too late. So we keep 2 types of information in the health register. One is a peer review, and the other is stakeholder feedback. Stakeholder feedback is not the focus of this presentation, but it's something that we do a lot and even make it anonymous. So that means we get good information and we can learn about problems beforehand. Okay, so that's where it goes. Common pitfalls with peer review. Common pitfalls are the following. One is that sometimes people use the same project manager to give them feedback because he's a friend and maybe he'll be nicer. That's not a good idea, you know. It's a good idea to spread that around, use different project managers every time, because it just spreads knowledge. It has loads of advantages, which you will see in a moment. So keep using different project managers within your organization, even across different domains. It's very important. It's a fantastic way to share knowledge. Next one, some people may be hesitant to point out problems. Yeah, that can happen, even with grown-ups. So remind them, if they say everything is great, no, do not accept that. Say at least give me 1 or 2 items to fix or to improve, because that's the only way you're going to make changes. Now, I know my presentation is fantastic because it's great, but still, I would ask people for feedback on how I can improve this. That was another joke. Thank you very much for laughing. Yeah. So get people to point out problems. And just some people have the wrong attitude completely. Their wrong attitude. I have a nice slide to show that. So your attitude is important. Don't be an asshole like this pigeon here. Do not do that. But there's a better phrase for this as well. If you get the idea of doing a peer review, don't be a dick. Just do not be. You're giving feedback. You're helping the whole company. You're trying to show off. That's really, really key. And maybe we can give out some T-shirts like this at the end of the conference as well. Now I've just put a cost on HTech, but that's okay.
No, I'm catching screenshot. I'm forwarding this to our design department.
Oh, great. That's a good idea. Thank you. That's very good. Don't be a dick. Okay, now, I also want to compare peer review with lessons learned you just to see this. So the good thing about lessons learned is that it's popular. Every framework, project management framework uses it. And lessons learned have got many advantages. We even include it in P3.express because it's important. But what's the difference between a peer review and lessons learned? Well, the first one is that with lessons learned, mistakes are likely to be made first. Okay, that's a small little issue. So wouldn't it be nice if we could catch the mistakes before they're made, and then we won't have to make them. So I call this like just-in-time manufacturing or just-in-time logistics. And that's a nice way to put it. And the good thing is then, if we put these together, what do we have? There are two ways of creating knowledge for your project. And that's genius. Okay, we got two methods to do it. We still use lessons learned because it's great. We will still continue to make mistakes, but we will make less mistakes because of the peer review feedback as well. That's key. Good. Next, unsuitable environments. Now, there is some environments where this will not work, to be sure. Okay, and that's one of the questions I relate to with the poll as well at the end of the project. I'm going to tell you another little story. I had the pleasure, or I could say displeasure, of working for an automotive company in Belgium for about 1.5 years. I was there as a contractor. And they had a CEO, and the CEO ran the company like a dictator. I mean, he would make dictators around the world cry because he was just so good. He had his board of directors, and he would just come them in, and he would just shout at them all the time. They would create a problem, and he would just shout at them. That was his way of managing his company. And he thought he was a great CEO because he was making an impact and he was loud. But what do you think happened after a couple of years? I'll just give a minute silence, don't expect an answer. Just want you to think about it for a moment. Well, good people started to leave very, very quickly, which was terrible. And the people that stayed were the people who were ensured they would get a job, get someplace else. So he was surrounded by yes people very quickly. The big impact was that nobody was taking initiative anymore. Because if you took initiative and you made a mistake, you were screwed. You were really screwed. And everybody was in protection mode, job protection mode. They never wanted to admit mistakes to anybody. Okay, so if that would happen, the idea of bringing in something like a peer review, that would never work. You kept your mistakes well inside you and protected, you know, that's it. And during the summer as well, I traveled quite a bit in the last six months or 8 months. But one of the countries I visited was a country in Africa. And it was actually great to see this country and live there for 5 weeks. It was also sad. Now, I know that most people probably joining are from Serbia and Belgrade, and I had the pleasure of being in Belgrade for a couple of times. But if many new businesses are starting up, let's say want to open a coffee shop, because there's coffee shops everywhere in Belgrade now. But I think the most common new business in this country is new churches. Yeah, they're all starting up. They are religion crazy. And the other thing they're really into is corruption. It's everywhere. I got stopped by the drunk policeman asking me for $100 because he saw that I was white. I got the whole thing in audio. I'm glad to share it with you as well. So my question, based on these two little stories I told you, what do you think is the root cause of the problems in these environments, in these two environments? The root cause. So we probably have to ask a couple of whys. I will give you the answer. I just want you to think about it for a moment. But the root cause here, if we ask a couple of whys, we will get to it, is unhealthy job competition, you know, and lack of job security. That's it. That's the root cause. So if we have that in an environment, the idea of peer reviews is not just not going to work. Okay, so we got to be careful. Good. Next, some of the advantages of the peer reviews. So I've divided it up into culture, learning, quality standards, and for new project managers as well. The first thing is to culture. Once we start to do this and audits and people are used to doing it, there's a kind of change in the way people think, and they're there to support each other, to help each other. So they point out problems for each other, and that has a big impact on the culture. And their attitudes changes, okay? We're more open to ideas, and people are more willing to work with each other. There's more of a togetherness. It's a bit like being in a football team together or something like that, where we're all having a common goal. That's very difficult to get on its own, but through peer reviews, we see that that happens without anybody saying anything, which is very nice. The next one is this one here is less blame. When something does go wrong, the most common question is the following: who's to blame? That will happen a lot less in this environment, but the question will be, what happened? How can we prevent this from happening again? That's a totally different question, okay? And it's great to see that happening. Next one is from a learning point of view. So we start to share knowledge because this happens automatically. We're giving information to each other, and provided we are moving around from project to project, we're seeing that knowledge goes up all of the time. Again, we're more open to learn. That goes back to the culture, but we are in a constant state of ready to learn mode, you could say. That's a good way to put that, okay? And learning goes both ways. So people who do the peer review are passing on information to us, and they are seeing how we do the project. So they're collecting information and walking away with that new data as well. So that works good. Right, the next one might be weird: quality standards. Why have I got that here? Well, let me give it a shot and say what you think. So most organizations have the idea of a QMS, especially organizations that say involved in manufacturing. But this does not leak very well, maybe into projects or project areas, especially in IT projects. But let's say that we have an environment where we have a program environment or portfolio environment. And one of the most common things they would do is to have a common process for doing projects, whether that's P3.express or Prince2 or something else. So they would like to have a common way of doing projects. And when people are giving feedback, they're reminding each other of the standards that are followed. You know, let's say that if you're releasing an application, they can check, oh, have you filled in the form to apply for hosting? Because it takes like 4 months to do, and it's got to be done beforehand. So things like that. Or have you registered this correctly with the purchasing department? Because otherwise you could be waiting for your material, and your project could go back 3 to 4 months, you know, for that. So that's great. And then the outcome of this, you could say, is that we all become kind of quality managers. Not directly, but indirectly, because we're all just giving feedback on each other's projects, and we're raising, let's say, we're raising the maturity of the way we're doing projects, because projects are getting better. So the performance of projects is going up all of the time. So it even helps you to mature the way you're doing projects and tie everything together from a program management point of view. Good. Lastly, for new project managers, if you're bringing in new project managers into a company, it's best to expose them to this technique as soon as possible and to expose them to other projects. Now, they may not be able to do a peer review immediately because they won't have the knowledge about the existing processes, but what do? Well, we can invite them to join an existing peer review. And if they see that done 2 or 3 times, then they will see the value. They will be open to having a peer review for their project, and they will try to carry out their first one themselves. And it's much easier to absorb them into the culture, which we want to do, and get people up and running. And we've got faster learning. Those are all outputs of this. Okay, so that's a good overview, let's say, of the advantages. I'm not really sure how I'm doing for time, but I did practice this presentation, so I should be okay with this. You can give me some peer review feedback if you wish halfway through. Tell me how I'm doing. Now I'm going to take you through when we do it and the kind of things that are in our mind. And the first step is the first one, the time we do a peer review, is project initiation. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the when, the required knowledge, questions to ask, and then I'm going to ask you to give me some questions as well for some feedback. Okay, so when do we do this? Well, we do this, let's say, after the project breakdown. So we break down the project. We have we have the best possible idea of the scope at that particular time in the project that we can, okay? And an overview of the risks. And we're about to go to the sponsor and say, hey, this is our project. This is our high-level plan. We're ready to go. So, but before we go, we get this peer review. It's an excellent time to do it, okay? Now, the required knowledge to do a peer review will be the following. Well, first of all, you have to have good project management experience and definitely good experience of how the project method works in your company. And of course, you have to have a good idea of the organizational processes as well. So both project management experience or general project management experience, but also how your organization works also. Okay, it can take a while to get there for new project managers, but especially for the organization, but they can learn. Now, the questions to ask, and when I show you the questions, these are just a suggestion of what we have for P3.express. Of course, you can modify these as much as you want, but these are our default questions that we ask. Okay, the first one is, was a sponsor appointed to the project from the beginning? Okay, which is a great question, because the worst thing that can happen is that the sponsor is changing. We believe that to be consistent in a project, the sponsor must be consistent and also the project manager must be consistent. We cannot do this. Actually, I just gave a training this morning and they had a big problem in understanding why the project manager has to be consistent and why it's no problem to change it out. Okay, I went over some ideas with them. And then we grade each question with 1 to 10. So we have a score here. Okay, and then we have an overview of if we score low. So if the sponsor was appointed late, or if the sponsor was replaced, we would give this a lower score. Okay, that's the general idea. And we can see then which items we are scoring lower in. This is also, it's an expression in English called cover your ass. I don't really like that, but it's a good idea to have the project manager saying, okay, these are some things we got to watch out for because we are scoring low here. And I need to point them out to the sponsor, and I need your support to get this done. The next one is, does the sponsor, I won't go through them all, I'll just go through like maybe 3 or 4. Does the sponsor avoid getting into the detail of the project? Okay, so what that means is there a sponsor that's always coming, rushing down, maybe even talking to the team members, giving directions on specifications and saying, oh, I don't like that. Are they doing that? If they are, you give your project a very low score because that's not their job. Their job is to sit up in a big chair, park the car in a good parking place, and get involved in the project when you ask a question, and maybe then whenever they have to make a decision. We keep them up there. So there's our interface between the level above and their project. Another question was the project manager appointed from the beginning of the project? Or is it a danger that they were appointed later? Like, have you been handed a project that's already been broken down, the budget's been already fixed in the timeline, and now you're given this white elephant to do? Okay, I'm not going to give you any more, but that's it for there. But I'd like you to think about this for a moment, and I'm going to give us like a couple of minutes to do that. Can you just add in some questions into the chat? Does everybody have access to the chat? Dragon host, co-host,
yeah. People have access to both questions and should have access.
Okay,
to the
great.
Chat, yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to type in some questions in the chat. Then I will copy the good ones, or not copy the good ones. I'll copy them, some of the ones that stand out. Let's say
chat is disabled. Let me see if I can fix it. Yeah.
If we can't, it's okay. Maybe we can use some other way of getting it across. Give it a go. There are some questions coming in. Oh, the chats are coming in.
There it is. All right.
Wow, that's quick. These guys are super quick. So let me go down here. Okay, you see, the reason I show my notepad is because you don't see the chat when it's being shared. Okay, are the stakeholders identified? Definitely a good question. Okay, so are the stakeholders, or are all the stakeholders identified, or are the appropriate stakeholders identified? That's a good question. That's one question I have. Did the project scope change? I'm going to write that down and comment on it. Well, we're at the beginning of the project, so the project scope is allowed to change at the beginning. So we can ask, that's probably a good question later in the project. So I'll take that out for the moment. Is there another one I can get? Where is the risk register? Okay. In the top drawer, you'll see it. It's behind the potatoes. Okay. I'll put this here. Where is the risk register? All right. So maybe we can improve that question a little bit by asking, do we believe that the risks have been properly identified, or has appropriate time been given to the risks, or has the risk being checked? So that would make it more specific. Is there a task list complete? Oh God, that opens up all my favorite topic about tasks. Okay, if I can give some feedback, if you were to change that task the word to deliverables, then I'm fully in line with you. So has a proper breakdown of the project been done? Are we satisfied that it's been breaking down as the best that we can for the moment? That's a very good one. Is the project goal clear to everybody? Oh, I like that. Yeah. And that has to be in the project charter. It's going to be easy to read, and when people read it, they can recognize it. It's very good. Oh God, I'm missing them now because there are too many coming in. Let me see another one here. Are all the project members assigned and need skills to perform? Okay, that's a question that's going to be asked later when we go into the cycles, because then we'll be assigning work. At the moment, we only have an overview of who's who from a high level of who's in the project. All right, we can stop right now. I think we've got enough, but thank you for doing this. What are the current obstacles in the project? Sure, that's a good one. Has all the obstacles, or have we spent time defining the appropriate obstacles, and we know that we know from the beginning of the project? Have the project measurements been defined? Yes. So do we know what success looks like when we get to the end of the project, and can we keep our eye on that for it while we're in the middle of the project? That's great. Thank you. Very good. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning of the project. I knew that would work well. Very good. Okay. Next, so we've done that's the startup. Now we're going to go into the monthly cycles. So we have a peer review here for A7. Right. So when does this happen? Well, let me show you. Well, the first thing we do in a monthly cycle, or let's say in a stage, is to revise and refine the plans. So we define upfront exactly what we're going to do in that month or that time period, let's say. So we could have to define what the specifications, or we build a plan for that month. So we figure all this out, okay? And then we have a go, no-go with the sponsor again, because we asked them to spend more money for the next cycle. And we say, this is what we're going to deliver. And they will look at the justification of the project to see if we continue or not, or maybe decide to shut down the project. So this is an excellent time to do the peer review to make sure that everything is okay before we go to the sponsor, okay? Because we don't want them finding out problems that should have been sorted, that we should have caught already. The required knowledge, again, it's the same as before, so I'm not going to go into that very, very much. Questions to ask. Now, the questions to ask in this case are a little bit different. I'm just watching the time here. Here we divided, you see we have a different scale, not a different scale. We have a number of columns here, and we use a column for every month. This is quite nice because you can see how different things are, we can give different grades for every month, and whether these grades are increasing for one particular question, or whether they are increasing or stagnant, okay, still the same. And that's great. It's good feedback for a project manager to have this. So one question was, is the plan for the upcoming month properly defined? So do we have a clear plan for the upcoming month that's easy to understand, or was it done in a rush? Okay. First question. Are we always updating the high-level plan properly? Because from, let's say, a sponsor point of view, or the high-level stakeholders, they want to have an idea on the end delivery of the project. So that's probably always moving back, but that always must be kept up to date, and we must keep it up to date. And a good time to do that is when we start a new phase in the project. Is the customer satisfaction evaluation report properly done? This is a big part of P3.express, so I won't go into that for the moment. So these are monthly questions we ask. So now some of the questions you asked already can come back in here. So what question would you ask every month on how the project is being done? So for example, the person that asked the question, are the deliverables properly assigned to people? That's a question we should ask here. definitely. So let me share my screen again, or let me stop the presentation, and we can discuss this, and I will open this again. I will delete these ones, or I put them at the bottom because it can be useful again. So my question to you is, what questions could you ask on a monthly basis? What peer level questions would you ask? Hopefully I'm not gone too quickly with this exercise. Maybe I am. Okay, I'm getting some in. No. Are people happy? Oh my God, I like this. Ha. It's a very good one. Oops, I didn't copy it for some reason.
Yeah, everyone, please type your questions in the chat and not in the QA. I will copy these. I will copy some of these because I want them all in one place.
Yeah. So are people happy? That's a good one. So we have a stakeholder feedback form for that. Have all the feedbacks been analyzed? Great one. Sure. What can we do differently to improve the process of the project? Okay, let me see. Oh, I didn't copy it correctly, but I want to do that because it's a good one. Oh my God, there's too much coming in. 1 second. I think we can stop right now because they're flying in. So
be careful what you wish for, Frank. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. What can we do differently to improve the project process? So what we're asking is, have some lessons already been identified in the project that we're putting into practice? That's a better way of typing it or writing it, but that's good. The idea is really good. Okay. How can I support? Are we going on track? No. In terms of V and value, how are you achieving this? Okay. In terms of brand value, that's one I find hard. I'll write it down just in case. How close and how far away? That's a kind of a different question. Have new, yeah. Okay, I'll do the last one here. Have new risks arrived? We can write that differently by saying, are we still performing risk management as we should, or are risks being constantly analyzed in the last phase or correctly before we start the new phase? Let's say the scope has changed and we brought new deliverables in to do. Have proper risk management been done of these new deliverables as well? Okay. The next one, I'll just do one more and that's it. Okay. Are there any personal problems that might impact the delivery of our team? Yeah, that's very good. And it's very close to our people happy. And we've got to be able to deal with this. It's something the project manager has got to pick up with very, very quickly because there's always underlying issues. And if we get that sorted, it improves our projects. So thanks for that. Great. Let me have to go back into presentation mode again. Okay. So the last one is project closure. This is a little bit quicker, let's say. So we do that, we hand over the product. This could take a long time depending on the project, or a short time, or maybe we hand it over bit by bit during the project. We evaluate stakeholder feedback, and then we do the closing activity group peer review. So that's when we do it. So the project is almost over when we actually finish up. The next thing we do after this is just communication that we've closed it, and we archive the documents. So it's towards the very, very end of the project. The purpose here is just to check if we're ready to end the project as a whole. So can we really shut down the project, or is there something that we are forgetting that will cause the budget to stay open or resources to be held up? So we use this to improve our system. So some questions to ask, I'm not going to ask you for questions here. Some question to ask is the main deliverable, is it approved and handed over? Yes or no, or how well was this done? In case of remaining activities, are they clearly listed and approved? Okay, is there recognition amongst these the activities that they're properly handed over? And is the customer satisfaction report filled in? So again, you can add your own questions in this, but it's a good idea to then customize this to suit your area of working. All right, so we're doing good actually. From a summary point of view, I mean in time. So summary point of view, what is a peer review? So a peer review is evaluation of work by somebody with similar competencies. Okay, that's great. The main advantages, well, it improves our culture, definitely. It improves learning, which is an important part of what we want. It improves quality because everybody is now a unpaid quality manager, which is good. And it's great for new people in the organization. It's fantastic. Okay. And lastly, how to embed it in your project management process. So if you are using something else than P3.express, well, it's a good idea to bring this in at the initiation part, then into your stages, let's say at the beginning of every stage or near to it before you go to your sponsor, and also at the end of the project. Okay, so no matter what project management process you're using, you should be able to implement it there. Okay, now I have a poll. I'm going to ask you to select one of 4 options when I give you a link to this poll. The first option is based on the idea. It's not based on my presentation experience, okay? Otherwise, you'll all say, great, okay? You can see I have a problem with low confidence, which is a problem. I have a shrink and he's helping me. So the first question is the following. Do you think that this is not a good idea and I will never listen to Frank again? Okay, so that's the first one. If you think this idea is crap. And again, you're voting on the idea, not on me. You might think it's a good idea, but it'll never work in my organization. That's okay. If you write that down, that's good. It gives us good feedback and we can level because we've got a lot of users here. We've got 455 people, participants. So this feedback is fantastic. And we will share this feedback before the end of the call. The third one is, it's a good idea and this may work in my organization. All right, you're doubtful. The fourth one is, it's a great idea and I will start to use this in my project and organization. Okay, so please do that. Give us some feedback on that. Let's see how many votes we get and try to get over 400. That would be super. So this is the link I have to give you. And hopefully I've got access to the chat still. And I'm going to put this into the chat. Okay, can you click on there and it will come up with a form like so. And you just click on one of them. Okay, and then click on submit, and I should be able to see the results. Oh my God, I don't see it there. Maybe I'm not logged in. While you're doing that, I quickly have to go in and check my accounts, Google Forms. Otherwise, I cannot see the results, so I come back later. Okay. Great, we've got 31 responses so far. This is great. Okay, keep going. That's super. So, wow. Okay. Oh wow, that's very good. 30% is saying that they want to use it. That's great. And only 11%. This is much higher than I thought. Okay, I'll give you a link to this as well. I'll make sure that's available for everybody. Copy the chart. Maybe I can put that back into it so you can all see the results. Please keep the results coming in. That would be great. Where do I go back into here? Oh, I think I've got the chat. I don't know if that's going to work. No, I have to send it out later. I need to be able to see the results before we hang up, and then it can go out later. Okay, 132 people, 134. Let's wait another minute to see how we're getting on. Or a half minute. 137. Good. Okay, I don't think it's going to change, but please give your results anyway. It's going to be very good. And how many minutes do I have left, Dragon?
Yeah, one moment. I believe you have 16 minutes left.
16. Okay,
16.
great.
Yeah.
16. I can come back in and have a look at this. Okay, good. So I got a little bonus for you guys. Let me go on down here. So sometimes I talk fast, it's my Irish accent, so we talk a little bit quickly, which is a pity. So I have a question for everybody. Would you like access to a free project management simulation course? I hear you. I hear you. Oh, I can see all the thumbs up. Okay, let me tell you about it first because maybe you don't want access, but let me tell you about it, what it is first. Okay, good. So we wanted to come up with a really cool concept for getting an idea across of how a project works. And in the community, we raised some ideas and we said, wouldn't it be great if we had the idea of a scenario where we could place people, we could submerge them inside the scenario and then give them a problem and put them in the driving seat as project manager, give them information, and they have to make decisions about the project. Sometimes they make good decisions, sometimes they make not so good decisions. But if they make not so good decisions or given more information, they don't really make a mistake, you know? But they have to drive the project to the end, or they have to try to guide the project to the end. Okay, and you cannot go back because in real life you cannot go back. You can only go forward. We have to make it as life possible as possible. If you want, you can do the course again, and the whole thing takes about, let's say, 4 to 6 hours, depending on how fast you want to go. But it's good to take your time. So there's a start. We give information, people make a decision, we give more information, people make another decision, and then we bring back everybody into a central point, and that continues like that. It's a really good idea to do this. And if ever any of you want to know how we've done this, and you want to create like a similar story for yourself and change around some things, just let us know. We're glad to share the technology with you. This was actually paid for by the European community, but they paid it as part of a P3.express deliverable as part of our European project. And they were very well, the feedback on it has been fantastic. So a little bit more about it. First of all, it's free. It's fully online. You can do this on your phone or on your PC. It's mostly text-based, which is great. So any nerds here who likes games are going to love this. It's really engaging because you take on the role as project manager. You actually are given a new name. You'll be called Didi, D-I-D-I, while you're doing the project. And you're fully involved in it, and the feedback on it, we see that people are sucked into it. It's very interactive because of your involvement, you really feel you are responsible for the project, and you always have to make decisions and try to grab the information from the screen. You even will make notes on the project, like a real project, on how you're running the project so you won't forget certain things. And you're also dealing with some different names of people, so you'll keep an eye on who is who in the project as well, okay? You're really involved in it. It brings you through the full project management process from how a project might start up to final delivery. And you'll also see changes in certain documents. So we have, let's say, the project charter or project description document, we call it. And you'll see when this changes, you'll see how the project is broken down and maybe how that changes as well, and new items being added into it, how the specifications changes. So you'll see these changes happening in real time over the project. And the good thing is you'll see a great example of a deliverable map. It's how we break down the project. So you're going to like it a lot, okay? So this is the URL. I will put this in the chat as well, or Dragon will share it. I'd share it, but Dragon, he can share it. And the other way to find it is just by typing that into Google, just by typing P3.express and actually Artofile into Google, and you'll find it immediately. Okay, so let me just show you that where it is. And if I take that shot from here, I'll just start you off in it, just to set expectations correctly. Okay, I will go back to reset it. Can I go back to reset it? Restart simulation.
Fantastic. Frank, can you please share the link in the chat?
Sure, I forgot to do that.
Yeah, everyone will then have it.
Sure.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I've shared it to you now, and you can share it to everybody. Is that correct? Yeah. So let's shut down the chat here. So okay. So it starts off with this hello to give you some information about the course. Is this course right for you? Hopefully it is. And you always have a little menu and some text here, and you are choosing decisions all the time. So is this course right for you? Well, it could be. If you're already familiar with P3.express, are you? You have to lie a little bit if you're not, and then say, okay, that's great, and so on. Okay. Of course, this is P3.express here. So always keep this manual open while you're doing the course as well. Okay. And if you can go through all the techniques here, and for every, let's say, activity, we can appoint, or you click on it, and it comes up with the information on what's needed, okay, for that activity. It's less usually than 1 page. So it's a great course, and please give it a go. That would be really, really super. Okay, I'm going to stop soon. We can ask questions, but let me look quickly at how many responses that we have. The latest news, let's say breaking news. We have 160 who give feedback, so thank you very much. We have 12% that said never work, which is much lower than I thought. 25% thought it was okay, and so 25% want to try it out, which is good, and 62% that it may work in the organization. That's great. Okay, you can take a screenshot of that if you need it as well at the moment. And now I will stop presenting, and I'm open the floor to questions. Oh, there are some questions that are already coming in.
Yeah, there was one question regarding, will your PDF or PDF of your presentation be available later? I believe.
Yeah, sure, I can send it, sure. Can I send it to you and you handle it out?
Yeah.
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 Okay, great.
I'll be able to then to share it with the participants.
Great.
All right. Fantastic.
Okay, are there other questions coming in? Do you facilitate this?
Yes. I will go through these. So yeah, there's another one in chat. Do you ever encounter peer reviews being used in an unhealthy environment to get people fired? How do you stay honest but prevent your word being twisted?
No, I haven't actually, not yet. They usually don't get started. So because people are just afraid to admit. So I've never seen this happen so far. It would be good actually, but maybe it's quite dangerous as well. So no, I haven't seen it. Sorry. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's another one. Does the simulator have personal history? So I can compare my results now and in a year, for example.
Oh, you're talking about the course at the very end. And no, it doesn't actually. No, we don't want to do that. You don't even have to give your name at the beginning. It just puts a cookie on your PC so you know where to go back to. But once you're finished, you're finished. Yeah. No. And GDPR data as well. We don't want to start tracking people. So
Oh, right. Yeah. Nobody wants to mess with that. Yeah.
No. Okay. So you can be free to make mistakes. We want people to treat it like an environment. Nobody will be checking up on you or saying, how could you make that stupid mistake there? Because we all make mistakes. So we got to give it as free, do the course again, and you will learn from it. As long as we're learning, that's what counts. Okay.
Fantastic.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, my presentation was brilliant because we're not getting many questions. So that means I've actually got over the information exactly the way that I wanted.
Well, to be honest, I was having questions during the presentation, and then they were answered on the next 1 or 2 slides. So,
you see, I'm right, eh? Okay, good. So, all right, I can be relieved from my duties. And thanks again for inviting me.
I do have a question for the peer review group. What's the usual size of the group that makes it, let's say, practical?
Oh, a peer review, it's always most likely one person.
Okay.
The only exception is that where we have a new project manager and we may be asking a project manager to come along and join a peer review. It's always one-to-one. Yeah, one-to-one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes it easy. And the important thing is we always swap these around. So we make sure that we've got lots of feedback from lots of different people, We do not use the same people all of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I make a note of that because I should be making that point clearer. So I do have a point of improvement.
No problem. Yeah, there's also, overwhelmingly positive.
Thank you, Nina, for your comments.
Yeah.
Great. Very good. Okay.
All right. then yeah, thank you, Frank.
You're
It's
very
really,
welcome. Really welcome.
it's
Lots
really,
of love
really.
from Belgium. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, talk
Talk
to you soon.
later.
Bye bye. All right, and yeah, everyone, we'll have a short break, and yeah, Mike Griffiths will join us in 15 minutes. So yeah, stay tuned.